Hello students. In this session, we are going to discuss about a concept called pedigree analysis. So let us try to understand what is pedigree analysis. An analysis of trait in several generations of a family is called pedigree analysis, or you can define this as the study of an inherited trait in a group of related individuals to determine the pattern and characteristic of the trait, including its mode of inheritance, age of onset, and phenotypic variability. Or the third definition is like this: it is the study of pedigree for known transmission of particular trait through generation and finding the probability of presence or absence of those traits in an individual's or one's progeny. So here pedigree analysis in Kannada is called as Vamsha Vriksha. So here what is the main objective? Thing is, we know that in every organism a character or set of character is being passed on from one generation to another generation. So therefore, how these characters are being passed on, that is, we say mode of inheritance. Remember, certain characters are passed on through autosomes, certain characters are passed on through allosomes. So that is what we can call mode of inheritance. Or certain characters when passed on express themselves in every generation. Or certain characters which are being passed on may express in one generation, get suppressed in another, and so on. So all this comes under what we call it as mode of inheritance. Age of onset, that is, the character transmitted may exhibit, may not exhibit very immediately. So therefore, when they are going to appear in an offspring after being inherited from parents. Then third thing is phenotypic variability. That is, whether a character being passed on is known to express in the same manner, whether there is no change in character or whether it is going to show changes in the character. So therefore, this is one important way to define pedigree analysis. Otherwise, let us say we have certain trait, might be a positive trait or a negative trait. Now the thing is, we are interested to know whether this character is being passed on to the next generation. If it is passed on, what is the probability of this character being appearing in next generation? That's very important. So therefore, to study about all this, we have a systematic representation of flowchart, and that flowchart of what can say characters being inherited through several generations in a family is what we call it as pedigree analysis. Now the question is, when this pedigree analysis was started, that is after the rediscovery of Mendel's work. So once the scientists were confident that there are certain ways how the characters are being inherited, later on they concentrated towards inheritance pattern of characters in human being. So now what are the characteristic features of pedigree analysis? The first important characteristic feature is, in pedigree analysis, the inheritance of a particular trait is represented in the family tree over generation. So that is parental generation, for F1 generation, F2 generation, F3 generation, and like that. So therefore, it's a systematic representation of inheritance of character in the form of family tree. That's what I told you, Vamsha Vriksha. Then the second thing is, when we are trying to represent this character, we are trying to use certain symbols for representing this pattern. So what are those symbols? The first symbol is, you can see square. Usually if it is unshaded with the square, this is called male. Likewise, circle. This is the second symbol, that is, it represents female. The third symbol used is, you can see rhombus, again unshaded. If you are not using any color, it should be unshaded. It is an individual, but here sex is unknown, whether male or female is not. So we say sex unspecified. So either square or circle or rhombus if it is darkly shaded. So if you are using, if you are not using color, you can shade with pencil, black shade. If that is the case, we call it as an affected individual. So if it is square, darkly shaded, it is affected male. If it is circle, darkly shaded, it is affected female. If it is rhombus, darkly shaded, it is an individual affected but sex unspecified. Likewise, the next symbol is mating. So male and female, so indicate copulation has taken place. We are writing an line. Likewise, the next symbol is square, circle, between them two lines. This is indicating that here the marriages are between close relatives, consanguineous mating or mating between relatives. Likewise, we have the next symbol, that is, this is indicating the generation, parental generation, F1 generation. Likewise, the next symbol you can see parent mating, and you have got square, darkly shaded. This is a male individual or a male child born who has got can say affected with a particular disease. So likewise, you can see rhombus, within that there is a number 5. So this is indicating what can say there are 5 children born, sex is unknown, but they are unaffected. So like this we have got various symbols. So you can see one more slide indicating different symbols. For example, you see dizygotic twins, there's a symbol. Likewise, monozygotic twins you can see. So likewise, you can see heterozygous, carrier, very important symbol. So male or female, if it is a female carrier, you are going to put a circle and put it dot. If it's male carrier, you are going to put what can say square and you are going to put a dot. So like this, different symbols are being used for what can say representing or while writing pedigree analysis. So now let us come for an examples of pedigree analysis. So this is a pedigree chart for an autosomal dominant trait which is called as myotonic muscular dystrophy. So here you can see in this chart, female is affected. So the characters being in next generation, you can see character seen in affected character seen in son and a daughter. So therefore, likewise you see next daughter, a daughter marries to a normal man. Again, in the next generation, you can see that a daughter is affected. So like that, here what is the meaning is, if the trait is dominant, one allele is sufficient to express character, and in autosomal dominant trait, for every generation, these characters are going to be expressed. So for that, you can see this, but one more slide indicating the characteristic feature of autosomal dominant trait. See here, if the children are affected, they will have at least one parent affected. That's what I told you. If a parent is having a dominant trait, so one parent is sufficient to make the character to move on to the next generation. So heterozygotes are also affected. So that's a thing. Likewise, two unaffected parents can produce unaffected child. Two affected parents can produce an unaffected child. Likewise, two unaffected parents will not have affected child. So like the different characters are there. About this pattern, you are going to study in detail in practical. At present only you try to learn the chart that is given in your textbook. So this is another example for autosomal recessive trait about sickle cell anemia. So here you can see the chart. In this case, actually here the both male and female parents are unaffected, but still you can see the disorder appears in son and daughter. How this is possible? Might be the parents are carrier. So therefore like that, this is the pedigree analysis for autosomal recessive trait. So again this slide showing with regarding to autosomal recessive trait. So you have got sickle cell anemia, you have got thalassemia, you have got phenylketonuria, where autosomal recessive pattern of inheritance is going to be followed. So now what is the use of this pedigree analysis? So by using pedigree analysis, we can try to trace out the inheritance of a particular character or an abnormality or a disease in a family. So this is with regarding to pedigree analysis. So we will try to study about the genetic disorders in the next slide. Until then, goodbye.